because it's in the secret place that God is working on me. Because he is, I am safe. I want to proposition you by saying to you, beloved, that when you have God, you're never alone. When you have God, you're never alone. Tanya, there's one thing that I have discovered over my short term in life thus far is that there are many places that I find myself standing by myself, but never feeling like I'm by myself. There are seasons in our lives, beloved, where we must understand that God has not forgotten about us. And because he has not forgotten about us, it is important for us to understand that we will never be in a position where we are solely by ourselves. When we feel like we are by ourselves, it is important that we remind the devil that the God we serve said that he would never leave us nor forsake us. And if God has said that in his word, then I'm crazy enough to stand on it. And if I'm crazy enough to stand on it, then I'm crazy enough to challenge the devil despite how I feel. All right, talk to me. Beloved, it is important that in these moments, as we are approaching this communion table, that we begin to not only be honest with ourselves. Don't worry about your neighbor, but this is the opportunity for you to be honest with God. The reality is that we all face some type of warfare, and we are all facing some type of struggle and some type of trial where our faith is on the line. I can't get any help. What I'm discovering, Pastor Reverend Darby, what I'm discovering is that my walk with God says that I am often appearing alone. My conversation appears that there is nobody else on the other side of me who is communicating with me. Therefore, to the world, I look crazy. But because I am who I am, because of who he is through Jesus Christ, I'm not crazy. I just serve a God who does not have a physical being, but he has a hearing ear. And because he has a hearing ear, what I'm learning, Keith, is that because his ear is always leaning in my direction, despite what I'm going through, what might look crazy to you is only part of God's divine plan for me. And Keisha, what I'm beginning to understand through revelation and through this walk is that despite what it appears to be, I must always understand that I'm rooted in his word because I'm connected to his son. In this particular Psalms, beloved, I'm not going to be before you long, but in this particular Psalms, it is essential for us to understand that this Psalms is a Psalms number one. The author, the pen writer is not, there's really no clarity on who wrote this particular Psalms. Some theologians argue that Moses wrote this Psalms along with the 8 other Psalms that follow. Because Moses is known for writing Psalms 90. And so it is concluded that Moses wrote a series of Psalms, but it is also concluded that it might have been David. Now, we don't know who wrote what in this particular Psalms. All we know is that somebody was going through something at the time. It is often thought that David, it is strongly suggested that David is the pen writer of this particular Psalms. I'm not sure. I really don't care. I'm not concerned. Only thing that I know is that the Psalm writer wrote that he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. It is important for us, beloved, not to be bogged down by the minute details that we often find ourselves getting caught up in. It is oftentimes that we find ourselves tripping through life because we are getting caught up in the minuscule details because we want to know everything. I don't care about all the details. All I need to know is that God is. God is what? God is a keeper, watch this, of his word. And if I have his word, that he's going to keep me as well. The problem for many believers is that they're asking God to keep them, but God says that's not how it works. He says, I don't keep you, I keep my word. And if my word is in you, then you are, as a consequence, kept. But if my word isn't in you, I can't keep you because I can't keep what's not in you. And if my word is not in you, I can't keep you because that's the only thing that I have to stand on in all of eternity throughout the entire universe. My word is my bond. Whatever I say, it shall come to pass. God is such a God that stands on his word. He says, I'll change my name before I change my word. This is why it's important for us to understand, beloved, that while we are traveling through life's journey, no matter who might be the author of this particular Psalms, it is indicative for us to understand that they have a clarion understanding of who God is. And it's important. We might not know God in all of his totality. We might not know God in all of his wonderful splendor. We might not know God and understand God in his complete appearance. We might not know or understand God in all of his mechanics and how he operates. I don't need to understand all of that. All I need to know is he's a God who stepped out on nothing, reached back through something, grabbed hold onto anything, shaped it and molded it into everything, flung it against infinity, called it the heavens and earth. And here I am today. He reached down into the panoply of the earth, and then he began to shape and fashion man, and then he blew his Ruach HaKodesh, that's his Holy Ghost, into man's nostril. And the Bible says man became a living being. And if he has the control over all of that, I don't know how he controls your life and how he operates in your life. I'm not concerned about that. I'm not concerned about how he bless you. I'm concerned about me getting close to him through his word. I'm concerned about how much of him I'm trying to consume. I'm trying to chase after him so I can get a better understanding of him. I'm not concerned about the new car he blessed you with. I'm not concerned about the promotion on your job. I'm concerned about my connection with him. And see, when you are placed in a position where you can only be focused on what it is that God is doing in your life, it cuts out a whole lot of that chatter. It cuts out a whole lot of drama when you're chasing after him, not because your neighbor chasing after him, but because of what he's done in your life. I hope this is making sense. So whoever the psalmist is, this particular chapter, this particular verse, I'm not sure. I'm not concerned. I'm just concerned with the fact that they understand something. They understand how to get blessed in the shadows. There's something, beloved, about being in the shadows of life that we often overlook because we feel like when we're in the shadows, we're overlooked. But what we fail to realize is that being overlooked is sometimes God's blessing us because he's covering us. The Bible says here, he that dwells in the secret place. In other words, beloved, I'm not seeking to be seen, I'm seeking to be hid. You have to understand in your walk, beloved, the thing about God, your elevation does not come when you're searching to be in the light. I know the song says, walk in the light. Beautiful, beautiful light. Come where the dewdrops of mercy shine bright. Shine all around us, both day and by night. Jesus is the light of the world. I know that we are supposed to come out of darkness into his marvelous light, but we have to understand something, that there are times when the enemy is on our tail, that God says, I need you to hide in the shadows. Don't ask me no questions. Just hide in the shadows. Don't worry about what they're saying. Just hide in the shadows. Don't think about what they're saying about you. Just hide in the shadow. Don't worry about the lies they're telling on you. Just hide in my, when you seek my secret places. It says here, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. In other words, beloved, as I am taken, as God continues to take me up because I'm seeking after him, the higher I go, the deeper into the shadows I reside. See, I must understand, beloved, I've come to understand that when I have decided that I'm really going to follow after God, Tanya, when I decided to stop fighting him, when I decided to stop going against the grain, when I decided that I don't want to fight with God no more, when I decided I'd rather sleep peacefully at night than to be tossing and turning and God calling my name, when I decided that I'm not going to go and butt up against God's desire and plan for my life, when I decided that I was going to submit to God, I come to understand that I have to dwell in the secret place. It's because it's in the secret place that God is working on me. It's in the secret place that God speaks to me. It's in the secret place that God is healing me. It's in the secret place that God is redesiring me. It's in the secret place that God is transforming my mind. It's in the secret place that God is giving me clear vision. It's in the secret place that my prayer life becomes stronger. It's in the secret place that my faith is strengthened. It's in the secret place. Look at your neighbor for the first time and tell him it's in the secret place. Beloved, you got to get to God's secret place, because it's in the secret place which you'll discover, beloved, that when you go into God's secret place, nobody can see you. Nobody knows what's going on. When you go into God's secret place, no matter what happens, no matter what comes up against you, you have a protective barrier that is hiding you. And it's in those secret places where God begins to reshape you and redefine you, and he begins to reveal unto you his plan for your life, to let you know that your life is not all about the pain that you experience, but it's the pain that I've given you a plan and a lesson to help you understand that this thing is deeper to you. In the secret place, when the enemy comes searching for you, the enemy can't find you. Why? Because you're dwelling in the secret place. Here's the thing about the secret place, beloved, is that the writer here, he says, he that dwelleth, which means that I'm willing to go in the secret place. I'm seeking God's secret place. I don't seek it for temporary refuge. I don't know what the writer was going through. He could have been going through a divorce. He could have been going through some family issues. His wife could have been getting on his nerves. His children could have been tapping his pockets. He could have been being pulled in a million directions. He could have had a million people at his feet begging him to do something. He could have been a leader over the military. He could have been stressed out. I don't know what the writer was going through. He could have been on his bed of affliction. He could have been facing depression. He could have been facing a suicide. I don't know what the writer was going through when he wrote this, but I do understand that the writer says in verse 1, he says, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadows of the Almighty. Let's look at this right quick, and so I can get out of here. He says, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High, watch this, he understands, watch this, the secret place is in God. It's not in a bottle. It's not in drugs. It's not in women. It's not in cars. It's not in clothes. It's not in the money. But it's in the Most High. Watch this. And if I hide in the secret place of the Most High, I shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Which means that there is light for me to see out, but there's no light for them to see in. I wish I had somebody that was praying with me here. Beloved, it is important for us to understand that if we are going to abide in God, that we must open our eyes to see those things that are in front of us. I remember one time I used to have a heavy foot. I used to have a sports car, a little sports car when I was in college. And I racked up like $2,500 worth of tickets in the state of North Carolina. And I always, I like to go fast. That was my thing. I used to like to go fast. And every time I hopped on 85, whether I was heading north or south, it didn't make a difference. There was always a state trooper, whether it was in Rowan County, Davidson County, it didn't make a difference. They always found a way to meet me. And so I had to, and here's the thing that had me jammed up, is that the Holy Spirit would speak to me and say, slow down, but I ignored his voice. And every time I ignored his voice, I paid a $250 fine for riding dirty through a work zone. And because I was riding dirty through a work zone, it wasn't that I didn't care about the workers. I was just had that much confidence in my driving ability that no matter if something happened, I know I'm trying to get to where I'm going. And if somebody try to jump in my way, I know how to maneuver around them. But after getting $2,500 worth of tickets, having gone to see the magistrate on several occasions, having several points removed off of my license, beloved, I learned to slow down and listen to the voice of God that says all you got to do is lay in the cut and hide in my secret place. See, and this is why so many people, they're going through some of the things that they're going through is because they don't know how to live in the shadows of God because they think that they're missing out on something. See, that's the trick of the devil. The trick of the devil will make you think what you see in the light is all that glorious and all that grand. But what do you fail to realize is that what you see in the light is that God is really keeping you. Because what they're experiencing is temporary. What they're going through is temporary. The joy that they have is temporary. They got the promotion. So what? That's temporary because you don't know what they had to do in order for them to get it. But see, when you stay in the shadow of the Almighty, see, you don't have to worry about getting buddy-buddy or chummy with somebody and having to owe them later. All you got to do is lay in the cut and watch God bring you out. See, there's something about when God brings you out. See, I really believe that this particular psalm was written by David because David can give us a testimony about lying in the shadows while everybody else is being promoted, or it appears to be that way anyway. Because you remember when David, beloved, in 1 Samuel 16, Samuel shows up to David's house, David's father's house. He's commissioned by God to anoint the next king of Israel. All 7 of his brothers are in the house except David, and the oil wouldn't fall for none of those dusty Negroes. They were dusty because they refused to work, because David, out of 8 brothers, David was the one that was out in the field by himself. They were lazy. And so God said to Samuel, Samuel got excited because he was looking at the countenance and appearance of David's brothers. And he said, surely the next king of Israel is before me. God had to pull him to the side and check him and say, listen, here's Samuel. See, you get caught up by appearance, and that's how some of us get jammed up, because we get enticed by what we see. We are overwhelmed by the appearance of a thing. And then as soon as we get it, as soon as we sign our name on a dotted line, as soon as we commit to it, we find out it's nothing but a whammy. Y'all done had some whammies before, haven't you? You used to be married to a whammy. Your baby daddy was a whammy. Your baby mama was a whammy. You used to be connected to a whammy. But God says, before you go down this road, let me stop you, Samuel. And luckily, Samuel listened to God. He says, ask again. So Samuel said, do you have any more sons to Jesse? And Jesse said, yeah, I got one more in the field. And Samuel said, nobody sits till he gets here. In other words, God had David in his shadow. And because he was in God's shadow, David learned how to abide in the shadow and wait for God to send for him. Beloved, the question I have for you on today, what are you doing with your shadow time? Are you shadow boxing? Are you playing with puppets in your shadow, or are you devoting that time to God? Because on your sick bed, it's not the time for you to wallow in my woe is me. Why me? Why do I have to be sick? It is your time to declare that my God is a healer. It is in your shadows, beloved, that you must understand that you need to make good of your time there, because it is there that God says, I'm working on you and I'm working on the situation. I want you to see how they're maneuvering, so that when you come out of my shadow, you will know that man didn't have anything to do with what I'm doing with you. In other words, the relationship I have with you is exclusive. And my blessings, beloved, are exclusive. They're fit just for me. I don't have to worry about my neighbor's blessing, because what God has for me is for me. Where God wants me to be is for me. I don't have to force it. I don't have to be chummy or buddy-buddy with anybody. Because when God decides to lift his hand, y'all don't hear me in here. When God decides to move his cloak, y'all don't hear me in here. When God decides that it's your time, there's no devil in hell that can stop you. There's nobody that can block you. There's nobody that can take it away. There's nobody that can make you trip or stumble or fall, because the steps of a righteous man or woman is ordered by the Lord. Shadow time. You got to get your weight up. Some of the best boxers in the world are boxers who fight their shadow. Beloved, you have to understand it is in the shadows that God is working on your behalf. So the writer, he seeks the secret place of the Most High. And because he seeks, watch this, he shall abide under the shadows of the Almighty. Verse 2, and I conclude. I will say of the Lord, he is my refuge and my fortress. My God in him will I trust. See, beloved, when you begin to look back over your life and you begin to unpack the stories of your life and you begin to unravel the mysteries of your life, Keith, what you will discover that God has always been there. God has been your refuge. God has been a place you can come and hide. Not only is it a place that God has protected you and shielded you from what was going on in the world, God has also been a fortress. Now, the thing about a fortress, we must understand the fortress plays two roles. It protects those that are on the inside from those on the outside. But it also protects those on the inside trying to get out. Because it's in the fortress, beloved, that you don't have no decision on when the doors will open up for you when you go into God's fortress, which means that you must be submissive to the orders and the instructions of God when you're hiding in his fortress. That means you must understand that your time is not his time is not your time, and your time is not his time. You can't dictate when you ought to come out. God says, when I get ready for you, I'll bring you like, pour out like pure gold. The writer had to have some experience in this because the writer says, my God, in him will I trust. In other words, beloved, he must have had some experiences where he'd been shadow boxing with God and thought that his arms were long enough to fight with God, but soon realized that God's reach is beyond what he can comprehend. God's reach is beyond what he understands. God's reach is beyond what he intended. And so therefore, instead of fighting with God, I'm going back full circle, that I learned to trust God, because it is in God that I begin to realize that everything will be made whole in due season. In God, I'll become the head and no longer the tail. In God, I'll become above and no longer beneath. In God, my latter shall be greater than my former when I trust God. See, beloved, when I begin to look at God and all of his infinite wisdom, when I begin to seek God out for who he really is, I begin to understand, because the Lord is my shepherd, I have everything I need in the shadow. He lets me rest in the meadow's grass, and he leads me beside the quiet stream. He restores my failing hands and helps me to do what honors him the most. And that's why I can declare on today, because he is, that's why I'm safe in his arms. When the storms of life is raging and the billows roll, so glad she'll hide me safe in his arms. So glad he'll hide me safe in his arms. I'm so glad that I can hide in God's shadow. I'm so glad I'm being kept by God's hand. I'm so glad that I'm being kept by God's love. I'm so glad that I'm being kept by his mercy. I'm so glad I'm being kept by his grace. I'm so glad I'm being kept by his joy. I'm so glad I'm being kept by his healing. I'm so glad I'm being kept by his word. I'm so glad I'm being kept by his prayers. I'm so glad I'm covered by the blood. I'm so glad that I'm safe. I wish I had a voice this morning, but I'm safe. I'm safe in his arms.